The price of gold is hitting record highs. I'm not kidding. It's up 86% in the last 18 months. 18 months ago, a little over 18 months ago, you could buy gold for like $1,900 an ounce. And today it's well over $3,500 an ounce. Up 86% in 18 months. I wish all my other investments did that good. It's up 17% in 6 months. You know, it's 3,500, 3,540 in US dollars, 4,900 in Canadian dollars, 5,442 in Aussie dollars, and over 500,000 Japanese yen per ounce. So, you know, America's dollar's not doing that great, but a lot of other dollars and yen and other monetary types are doing even worse than what America's dollar's doing. But, you know, you can make money with gold. You can make some serious money with gold. I gotta tell you, you know, for the years that I've been out panning, metal detecting, sluicing, dry washing, even dredging back in the day when it was legal in California, you know, I use very little of my gold. Most of it goes into a safety deposit box where it just sits. Well, I've been making well over $3,000 a month doing nothing, just watching the price of gold go up. Let's take a look at some charts of the movement of the price of gold over the last few years. It's just crazy. So I'm going to show you a chart and we'll talk about it.
Here's a 5-year chart for the price of gold, and you can see that for 21 and 22 it kind of bounced around between 1,500 and 2,000, but boy, beginning in late 2023 it just has been on a tear, just moving upward. And you know, it's catching up with things like Bitcoin and stuff where people have been investing a lot of money. And you know, gold is so much more a classic store of money, a classic hedge against inflation that has been around and working for thousands of years. You know, all kinds of cultures have valued gold and used it as a store of money. And all kinds of cultures have had struggles with inflation. And we're having that right now. Whether the government numbers say yes or no, it's happening. And so you need some protection from this kind of inflation.
You should think about investment in gold. Now, you know, there's a lot of advisors that think that with inflation and all the stuff that's going on, that it makes sense for people to have at least a portion of their wealth in gold, because wealth is the great preserver of capital. We're having inflation, and you know, people will tell me, well, gold hasn't gone up, the dollar's gone down. Well, the dollar has gone down. We are having inflation, but the dollar hasn't gone down 86% in the last 18 months or 17% in the last 6 months. The dollar is, you know, it's got its problems, but other currencies are got it even worse. So you can make money with gold, and it makes sense to have some investment in gold. How much do you guys have? You know, I have enough that I'm making some serious money by it going up so fast. It's just crazy. And, you know, the projection is that gold is going to go up even more in the coming months, because we're not changing anything. The things that we're doing that make for problems, we're not changing it. And, you know, even people who are interested in cryptocurrency, well, in recent times, cryptocurrency hasn't gone up 18%. Or 86% in the last 18 months, you know, or even 17% in 6 months. Gold is on fire, and silver too. Silver is also really hot. You know, you really should think about investment in gold. I have always had some, and there's different ways to invest. One of the ways is what they call exchange traded funds. You buy it like on the stock market. You know, the New York Stock Exchange, you can buy it on the stock exchange. Basically, it's shares in gold or silver. And I've had ETF gold in the past, and I have some ETF silver at the moment. There's pros and cons to it. You know, the pro is you don't have to store it. It's stored by somebody else. So ETFs, like I say, you can either easily change and trade it. That's one of the things about ETFs is you buy it and you can just, you can sell it on the market a week later, a month later, a year later, or whatever. The ETF that I have for silver, I probably have held on to it too long. One of the things about ETFs is they charge you significant fees for holding it for you. It's not free to just hold it. And so one of the things about ETFs, you probably don't want to hold it for a super long time. Like I say, I've held my silver ETF far too long. The price is going up. It's time for me to sell it. The next to talk about is physical gold. Physical gold, that's like having bars or coins or that kind of stuff. And I've always been a coin collector, and I have some gold coins and that sort of thing. But again, now you have an issue. Anytime you take physical gold, bars or coins or whatever, you have an issue of storing it. For me, my coins and gold, I store in a safety deposit box. And I know there's at least a few people out there who will say, hey, Chris, the bank could steal it from you. Well, technically that is true. But I think the odds are really low. I know plenty of people who've decided to store gold at their house and have been robbed and lost everything. And so, I'm evaluating the risk, which is more risky. In my opinion, it's more risky to have it at my house than it is to have it in a safety deposit box. So it's in the safety deposit box. But I've got it. It's going up. Now, with physical gold, you have the issue of selling it. So you have to you paid money to get it, whether it's coins or bars, and now you have to sell it to somebody. And usually they'll charge you money in the buying and the selling of it. And so the thing with ETFs is they're just really easy to trade in, trade out, trade in, trade out. No problem. It's not expensive. But with physical gold, you got an issue of selling it. And, are you going to sell it to a refiner? Or are you going to find another coin collector on eBay or something like that? There's always an issue of turning physical gold into cash. The next one I want to talk about is mining stocks. Now, I've done some work in mining stocks. I do have some mining shares. And of course, as the price of gold or silver goes up, the profitability of the mining stocks of companies that are actually doing mining, not exploration companies, but the outlook for those companies is better and better. And so the price of their shares goes up, usually much faster than the price of the metal. But the truth is, there's a dearth of interest in gold and silver right now. And, I am an old guy, and I remember back in 1980 when gold reached $800 an ounce, which for the time, that was crazy high. It had been for ages $35 an ounce since the 30s, and then they upped it for a little bit to $42 or something like that an ounce, and then they took it and put it on the market and made it so Americans could own gold again. And it quickly went to 100 and people were excited, and then it went to 300 and people were excited, and then it went to 800 and people just went crazy. And new mining companies sold stock and sprouted up out of nowhere, and they bought properties, and there was actually some decent discoveries made in that time frame, but there was a big interest in exploring for gold and silver, because that's about the same time that silver went to 50 an ounce, the Hunt Brothers squeeze thing. But there was a lot of interest, a lot of shares sold, a lot of mining done, and it was really good for a while. And so there continued interest, and mining stocks have continued to be a very interesting way of holding or taking advantage of the rise in the price of gold. But the truth is, they're way more risky. And generally speaking, the price goes up as the metal goes up. The price of the shares go up as the metal goes up. But there's other risks. There's employee strikes and governmental changes and environmental laws. And, I read recently of some companies working in Africa are having their mines that they've spent millions and millions exploring and developing and getting all set up, and then some small developing nation country says, oh, well, we're nationalizing your mine and it's no longer yours, it's now ours. Bye-bye, see you later. We're going to give you absolutely nothing for all that you invested. We're just taking it away from you. And usually that's a disaster. What ends up is the mine ends up shutting down because the people that take it over are the cousin of the dictator or, his brother-in-law or something, and they don't know thing one about mining. So the mining stocks, a lot of risk in that. Futures, you can buy futures on the market, COMEX and that kind of stuff. Futures, actual futures are kind of sophisticated, and they are risky themselves. It gives you a chance to buy stuff more than what you actually have available to invest, but it's risky. And futures really more a sophisticated investor kind of thing. So it's certainly a possibility, but I doubt that very many of my watchers would be interested in that. I think most of my watchers would, ETFs, physical gold, maybe a few mining stocks, but then there's the bottom one. And here's my favorite, the dig your own. Let's talk about that. There is gold out there to be found. It's not easy, and it is work. And if you're looking for something, like my gold that's in my safety deposit box going up, I'm not really doing anything anymore for it. I dug it out of the ground years ago, or I bought coins and that kind of stuff. But digging your own it's got a lot of advantages. It's got a lot of possibilities. And if you're at all interested in that, most of my channel is about that. So you might take a look at some of my older videos, but metal detectors, sluice boxes, dry washers, pans. In the old days I used to dredge. And so there's a lot of possibilities. And, over the years I've found a lot of gold. And so maybe to give you a little feeling for what's possible out there, let me show you some of my gold. Maybe I'll give you a little bit of gold fever. Take a look.
Here's a group of nuggets that I found a while back. It's been years, and it's some of the first larger nuggets that I found with my metal detector in Northern California, and I was real pleased. This is a total of close to 3 ounces. This is a nice couple of days of dredging that I got. It's about it's about 8/10 of an ounce. The big nugget in the center there is about 1/4 ounce, and this was from dredging back in the day when dredging was legal, and I did a lot of dredging back in the day and found a lot of gold doing that. It was really great to get in the water in the summertime. This is a 1/4 ounce of nuggets I got one day in Arizona, and actually it's only half of what we got. A friend and I went out in Arizona, and we had really nothing more than pans and hand digging tools and that sort of thing. And we went out there and we found a really nice crevice, and we took 1/2 ounce out of that crevice. That's a really impressive crevice. And we split it because there was a 1/2 ounce. I got a 1/4 ounce, he got a 1/4 ounce, and this is my 1/4 ounce of Arizona gold, armed with nothing more than gold pans and hand digging tools. This is a nice group of gold that I got by a combination of metal detecting and dry washing. It's about 1.25 ounces of gold total. The coarser nuggets on the right were things that I detected with my metal detector, and the finer gold on the left is the stuff that I dry washed out of the same area. Basically, I gone over this area and gotten a whole bunch of smaller nuggets and realized, well, there's got to be nuggets in there, gold in there that's too small for my detector to see. So I just started dry washing it, and I did really well. And so this kind of shows how dry washing and metal detecting can go together real well. This is about 1.25 ounces of nuggets I dug during a trip to Western Australia. I spent several weeks there traveling around and visiting places, and sometimes we're just having fun. Other times we were detecting. And this is my take of gold from my Australian visit. This is a couple of ounces of gold I got on a metal detecting trip to Alaska. We were actually digging in old mine tailings, actually old placer mine tailings. And we met with the owner, and he said to the guys we were with that he'd had some people on the claim that had dug there without permission and had just thrown their trash back in the hole when they dig something that was, rusty iron junk. And he asked that we would take it with us. And hey, I promised, no problem. If I come across anything like that, I will take the trash with us. And so not long afterwards, an hour or two later, I was digging and I came across what clearly was a dig hole, and there was a big loud target right in the middle of the hole. And obviously this was just what the owner had said. Someone who dug a hole, found a piece of rusty iron junk, and thrown it back in the hole. So I started to dig it out with, gusto, because I, wasn't worried about it being gold. It was clearly a piece of trash. And the second swing I took digging into this hole, out flies this large yellow object in the dirt that I'm slinging out of the hole. And it was the large nugget in the lower left, 3/4 of an ounce. I was just shocked. The guy had got a loud target and then dug so many other trash targets that he heard this loud target and just gave up and left the gold in the hole. And so this was a great find and a really great memory. This is just a single piece of gold, of which there's a little more than 1/10 of an ounce of gold in it. And it wouldn't be that amazing a find, except I started a gold rush in Africa with this piece of gold. We had gone there with Fisher metal detector, and we were demonstrating metal detectors to some of the local folks. And they took us out to a field that belonged to a farmer because it was a big open area, and we could test it out and see the metal detectors. We could do our demonstrations, and we did a demonstration and then passed out some metal detectors that we had for trial, and I had my own personal. So I took my personal detector, it was a Goldbug Pro, and went out and swung in the field and found this piece. And it was an area that had never yielded any gold before. And so I yelled and screamed and got all the local guys over and showed them the gold. And I think a lot of them looked at me and thought, this guy comes in, this is fake. And that I was, somehow trying to dupe them into buying a metal detector. And so there's some of them, though, kind of like, okay, and they weren't all that excited about it. But then about 15 minutes later, one of the local guys found one much nicer, about 1/2 ounce. And then they believed. And another 15 minutes and another guy found a really nice one too. And after that, not only had I found one, but a couple of locals had found some nice gold, the rush was on. And all the guys had flip phones, and they were all calling their buddies and like, hey, come out here, And we had a schedule that we had to keep, so we couldn't spend the rest of the day there, so we left. And as we were going out on the road, man, there was just guy after guy after guy coming in on little trail bikes with metal detectors slung over their shoulders. And we went back a couple years later to that part of Africa. I never made it back to that spot. But the guys that were with us told us, oh, yeah, that place where you found that gold is just nothing but a whole bunch of holes dug in there because they found a lot of gold there. So I kind of started my own little mini gold rush with this piece of gold. This is a grouping of 3.5 ounces of nuggets that I found with my metal detector in Northern California in Sierra County, right in the middle of a road. And now these nuggets were spread along the road for a distance. They weren't all in one little spot, but along a couple hundred feet yielded this much gold. And it was actually, like I say, in the road. And I'd driven over that road dozens of times and eventually made a find, and we kept working it, and here we are with some really nice gold. And so it was a special memory and a great summer that I got 3.5 ounces of gold out of that road. This is 1.8 ounces of nuggets I found just last summer in 2024. I found a new patch, and in working it, there was some nice coarse gold. This was in Plumas County. And, I've shown you this gold. This is only a fraction of the total gold that I have, but it's a lot of memories, and a lot of exercise and good experiences and time spent with some good guys, and just a lot of memories that I'll always have, in addition to the value of the gold, which is why I recommend digging your own and learning the skill of finding your own gold.
And that's only a small part of the gold that I've dug over the years. I've made my own buttons and bars out of gold. That what I have is impure stuff that you could sell to a refinery, and I will continue to do that. And maybe I'll never really need that cushion, but I've got it just in case. If things really go to heck, then I'm in good shape with having some decent amount of my investment in gold. So, you guys should think about that. You really should. If you've never thought about it, you should think about it. If you've maybe done a little bit in the past, maybe you should think about getting back into it. Because with the price of gold, 1 gram, which is really not that much, 1 gram is now $113. That's just crazy. It's gone up so much. And so, it's really worthwhile to dig in and get in, but it's a skill, it's a knowledge. And, there is gold spread here and there all across the United States, across Canada, across Australia, and a number of other countries. There's opportunities. You can get out there and find some gold for yourself. It's not easy. I never tell people it's easy, because we're maybe 150 years too late. And it's a skill that you have to learn. Just buying a voltmeter doesn't make me a professional electrician. But in the same way, just buying a metal detector doesn't make me an experienced prospector. It takes time to learn, and it's a skill. And it's worthwhile though, because you get some exercise. When I go out and metal detect, I get some exercise. When I dig or dry wash or pan, snipe, whatever I'm doing for gold, I'm getting some exercise. And like Jeff Williams says, hey, what do you need to do with a gym? Because if you don't need a gym if you're a gold miner, because you're out there working and getting the exercise. And it's good exercise, and you get rewarded for it. It's a very real treasure hunt. But like I say, in order to be successful, you need the skill, you need the knowledge. And I wrote a book called Fistful of Gold, which imparts to you the knowledge. I've got like 40 years of experience. You will get that experience by reading my book. And it's available again, and it's going to be out and about, and it's been out of print for a short time, for a couple months, but it's back in print, and it's worth having. And I've partnered also with an outfit called High Plains Prospectors, and they have a full line of prospecting equipment, from just a simple gold pan to sluice boxes to metal detectors, high bankers, you name it. Whatever your needs are for prospecting, they've got you covered. So in order to tell you a little bit more about my book and about High Plains, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about them right now. This is my book, Fistful of Gold. It's an encyclopedia of everything you need to know to go out and find gold for yourself. It distills down my 45 years of experience out in the field prospecting, as well as my degree in mine engineering. It's, like I say, an encyclopedia. There's a lot to it. It's over 250,000 words long, hundreds of pages with hundreds of illustrations, teaching you what you need to know about geology, about mining districts, about techniques of finding gold. It covers metal detectors, sluicing, panning, dry washing, high bankers, you name it, it's covered in there. It talks some about platinum and diamonds, but it's mostly about gold, because gold is more widespread. It is not so much a book about where to find gold, but a book about how to find gold. Because even if you have a location where gold was mined in the past and you go out there, well, where should you look to be successful in your prospecting, to find the gold that's there? This is the book that's going to tell you that information. I spent most of 10 years writing this book, so I thought a long time about it. It's got, like I say, lots of information and lots of illustrations, and I've had results from people who bought it. It's available on Amazon, but I recommend buying it through High Plains Prospectors, and I'll put a link in the description for buying this book through them. They have a better price than Amazon, and I have a special deal that I'll tell you a little bit more about, where you can get a 5% discount from the price even with that. On Amazon, the book rates a 4.7 out of 5, which means that of all the people that have bought it, they've been really highly satisfied, and I think you, if you buy my book, will be just as highly satisfied as well. Now let's talk a little bit more about High Plains Prospectors. They're a prospecting shop, a mail order prospecting shop that I've partnered with. The deal is that I can get you a 5% discount, a coupon code, and I'm going to put the code to that right here. It's just Chris Ralph, all caps with no space between Chris and Ralph. You put that in there as a discount code, and you'll get 5% off their already really good prices. I think it's a great deal where you win by getting a discount. I get a little percentage of that, and they get new business. So if you need prospecting supplies, High Plains is really the way to go. And I'll put information, like I say, in the description more about how you can work with them, because I'm working with them. They really are great guys, a great company. For even more information, I also have a website, and I'm going to show you my webpage and talk a little bit more about that right now.
This is my webpage. It's located at NevadaOutbackGems.com. You can Google it, or I have a link down in the description below. But there's lots of information here, miscellaneous stuff, pictures, some historic information as well, stories. It's got a lot of great fun stuff. You'll probably be interested in it.
Now, on all of my YouTube videos, I encourage you guys to ask questions. If you have thoughts, comments, suggestions for things that I ought to look at in my videos, things that you want to find out more about, and I answer 100% of my questions. There's not very many YouTubers out there that answer 100% of their questions. I'm one of the few. And so I will do my best to answer what you have. I mean, I only can write so much. Sometimes the answer is something where I'm going to recommend that you buy the book and read about it. I also ask that you subscribe to my channel, click the bell notification so that every time I come out with a new video, you'll be able to watch it. And like I say, I cover a huge amount of topics. I also have 250 videos that I've already done. And so you can go back through my catalog of videos on YouTube. I'm sure there'll be many videos there that you'll want to take a look at, especially if you have any interest in gold or platinum, diamonds, gemstones, geology, and that sort of stuff. My YouTube site is going to be right up your alley. So I'll see you again real soon. We'll be out in the field and back in the office at the whiteboard, and whether we're looking at gold or platinum, diamonds, gemstones, or other interesting geology, it's going to be fun. You're going to enjoy it, and we'll see you again real soon.